Good morning, Eagles. In this month's teacher feature, we're talking to Ann Eichmann and Rachel Balser about how they've tweaked their classroom discussions to increase student accountability, student buy-in, and to even improve peer-to-peer relationships amongst their students. Ann offers a unique twist on the traditional Socratic seminar with spiderweb mapping to analyze the conversation. She explains here what she's looking for in their discussion.
And so I ask them to, reference where is it that you found this particular information or what led you to this conclusion. I'm also looking for them to not only reference the text, but explain it in a way or analyze it in a way that really connects it to their argument. I'm looking for them to build on each other's ideas, so offer agreement, disagreement, clarifying questions, follow-up comments. I'm looking for them to encourage each other to speak up, and everyone is collaborating and conversing and sharing equitably in the conversation. And I'm also looking for just generally insightful or original comments or conclusions. Those are kind of the positive things. I also tag for things like interruptions or rude comments to try to encourage students to think about how they are interacting with their peers, and that it's not just about the history, but it's also about sort of this interpersonal connection and relation. So anyway, the students have 20 minutes. My role during all of this is I tell the students to basically shut up and get out of the way. I don't say a word. I sit in the corner. I have a diagram where the students' names are in a circle, roughly correlated to how they're seated in the circle to have the conversation. And I am simply mapping the conversation, so I'm drawing lines from one student to the next as the conversation moves. And I'm also coding for some of those things that I was looking for. And then after 20 minutes, I call time and the students switch out. So the second half of the class moves to the inside circle. And the outside circle, I should mention, is taking some general notes of their own as well as following one specific peer. But then the next day, we always start class with about a 20-minute debrief of the conversation. And I started this year putting the conversation map, kind of the spiderweb map, on the screen and letting the students very clearly see how the conversation went. They can see what I coded for, they can see how they did, they can see how the group did as a whole. And then there is a sort of a group discussion rubric that we walk through. And then as a class, we talk about where do you think you are on this rubric and how do you think the group did. So what are you going to say about equity in terms of participation? Was it perfectly equitable? Those of you that participated. No. So, if we're going to give ourselves a 5, that means there's no room at all for improvement. Would you say that there could be greater equity in participation? Okay, I would say yeah, some. So where do you want to put yourselves? 2, 3, 4. Maddie?
I think either like a 3 or a 4 because
I would agree.
There's a few really concentrated areas, but overall it's relatively even, but not like the greatest.
And the feedback that I got was overwhelmingly positive, particularly from students who I had last year who have done it sort of the old way and now they did it this way. They really liked the sense that it was more about a group and that was less sort of pressure to just say something. It was more about building that conversation.
In world languages, Rachel brings a technique she developed when she was at South Elgin High School to encourage her students to push beyond memorized dialogues in order to have more authentic conversations in their second language.
So in our Spanish classes, we have students complete a conversation table in which they are grouped randomly, and they come to the table with 2 questions each. They do not know each other's questions ahead of time, so this creates a more authentic, real-world experience for them rather than having a scripted out conversation.
¿Qué es importante?
No feo.
¿Es bonita?
Yeah, bonita, sí. Gracias. No. Sí, leal y honesta porque está bien para un novio. Novia. Sí.
Es bueno que tu novia es bonita, pero no es una cualidad necesaria. Porque es necesario que los novios son honestos y leal y no traicionan.
So this is something that we started at my previous school because we felt like the conversations between the students were memorized, and speaking is one of the hardest components of learning a foreign language to obtain. So we decided to do this in every level to give the students a more real-world experience. So in every level, I've seen students debate each other in the target language. They have brought facts about the environment and have been able to kind of go off and give suggestions based on, conserving electricity or saving the rainforest, things like that they necessarily wouldn't be talking about in a script. They've also talked about things like The Bachelor or books that they've read, and it allows students' personalities to really come out, especially in components like debates or arguments in the target language. So we feel like our students have really grown and they feel a lot more comfortable using Spanish or German or French when they're doing things like this. And we also don't typically count grammar. The goal is to get them speaking in Spanish or the target language. So with that weight off their shoulders, they're much more communicative and they're more willing to speak.
Thanks so much to Anne and Rachel for sharing their discussion techniques. Make sure to tune to next week's Morning Jolt for some more ideas when Emily shares several other discussion and questioning techniques that can be used in the classroom. Until next time, Eagles, we'll see you in the tea room.